This week, we heard from 4 shortlisted candidates for the position of Chief Justice, Constitutional Court, Justice Mbekezeli Benjamin, Supreme Court of Appeal President Mandisa Maya, and Gauteng Judge President Dustin Mlambo, as well as Acting Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, were in the hot seat, trying to convince the country and the President why they would be the perfect choice to fill the position. Mbekezeli Benjamin from Judges Matter joins us now for some analysis following, or expecting rather, the briefing to happen from the Judicial Service Commission. Thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it. You've been in that room with me the whole week trying to figure out exactly what's going on and what's being asked. The first question, I think that's an important one, is the line of questioning that's been posed to every single candidate. Many would say the first 2 candidates, which was Justice Madlanga and Judge President Mandisa Maya, were very different to Judge President Dustin Mlambo and Acting Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. Do you think the questions were fair and the right kind of questions to figure out if they are the right people to take up the position of Chief Justice?
Good afternoon, Heidi, and good afternoon to the viewers at home. You're quite right to say earlier in the week we saw a different tone and a different line of questioning followed by the JSC when they interviewed Justice Maya and Madlanga. And the tone of the questions changed when it was the turn of Judge President Mlambo. And of course, towards the end of Justice Zondo's interview, the interview descended into complete chaos. And this shows an unfairness in the process of the JSC, where some candidates get what we can call sweetheart questions and others get questioned on issues that do not relate to whether or not they can do the job of Chief Justice and seem to be driving some outside political agenda. So we are concerned by this, and we see this as a symptom of the systematic failures in the JSC, where they don't have a criteria that tells us what exactly they are looking for, and they don't have rules of procedure that tell us how they should conduct themselves.
Certainly, I want us to touch on what some of Justice Madlanga spoke about, because it's almost as though people have forgotten his interview because it was on the first day and a lot has happened since then. But he had some grand ideas, but I think what many were very confused and I would say unhappy about is his answer as to whether or not the country is ready for a female Chief Justice. It's almost as though he did not want to give his full view and opinion on that.
Well, Heidi, I think we have to admit that it's an awkward question to ask, because when you are in an interview and someone asks you, is your competitor better than you? It's awkward for all of us. But I think the question itself was also inappropriate, because we've never before asked whether South Africa is ready for a man Chief Justice. So why are we asking whether South Africa is ready for a woman Chief Justice? So I think the question itself was problematic. But Justice Madlanga couldn't really give an answer and instead threw it back to the JSC to say they are the ones who must decide whether or not a woman should be Chief Justice or whether he should be given consideration. I think he should have been more firm to say, look, in terms of our history, perhaps it would be better to appoint a woman, but he brings the qualities that would prepare him to take on the role if he was given that opportunity. That would have been a much better answer.
Yes, I want us to move to Mandisa Maya. I think everybody was very impressed with some of her answers and also her firm response to how the wrong question is being asked about whether or not South Africa is ready for a female Chief Justice. She went on to explain how women always have it more difficult, and if equal opportunities were given to women, it would not be the question that's posed to her whether or not we are ready for a female Chief Justice. But I think she gave it back to the Commission to say that's not the question that should be asked, and perhaps we need to look at how we actually treat women, especially in the judiciary.
Yes, absolutely. I think of all the candidates, Justice Maya had the most nuanced grasp of issues of gender in the judiciary and of transformation as it relates to gender and race as well. She spoke about how women are not given opportunities, and that if they were given equal opportunities as men, they would succeed, because men are not intellectually superior than women. It's just the kinds of opportunities opportunities that they are given to the different races. But I think the most important part of Justice Maya's interview was that she showcased what it is that she has done in the past to advance women in the judiciary, but also to advance black people in the judiciary. She spoke about how when she was appointed 5 years ago as the head of the SCA, she decided that she will take on 3 tasks to transform the Supreme Court of Appeal, which was bringing in more women to that court, bringing more black judges into that court, ensuring that the court maintains its reputation for quality and excellence, and also the culture of the organization to be more inclusive. And on all of those issues, she reported that she has succeeded in doing them. I think that was the most compelling answer to whether or not she is ready to be Chief Justice. Not that she's a woman, but because she's a good woman, she's a good judge and a good leader. I think that's what shone through her interview.
Certainly, and many would also argue that that shouldn't have even been asked, because we need to check on people's capabilities and skills to be the Chief Justice of the highest court in the land. Let's move over to Judge President of the Gauteng Division, Dunstan Mlambo. He was also very stern, and I think at one point he became quite cheeky in terms of his response to some of the answers, saying, I don't have a soft spot for President Ramaphosa, and I certainly don't have anything against former President Jacob Zuma. But he also spoke about the toxicity of the judiciary and how he actually went as far as saying that if anyone gossips, it's judges and those in the legal space. Before you answer, Mbekezeli, I just want us to actually listen to the response of Judge President Mlambo with regards to some of the attacks on the judiciary.
My scan revealed that the judiciary operates in a somewhat toxic environment. Toxic in the sense that the judiciary is attacked on a number of fronts. Its independence and impartiality are always at stake and attacked. And this is a function of a polarized political space. You also have unfounded claims of corruption against members of the judiciary. But more worrying, members of the Commission, is that I can tell you as head of a court, starting in Labour Court and the High Court, that there is corruption growing involving court operations in South Africa. Corruption not by judicial officers, I want to state that upfront, but corruption in terms of the usage and the circulation of fraudulent court orders, which bear all the resemblance of a proper court order, but when you investigate it, you find that no such matter was heard on a particular date. That's an issue that I think requires serious attention because it can erode the legitimacy of the judiciary. We've mentioned increasing caseloads, but I think access to justice, access to courts remains an issue.
Mbekezeli, I think we were all quite taken aback when Judge Mlambo actually started speaking about the toxicity that exists within the judiciary, but also how I think many are saying, how are judges expected to react to criticism? And the big one comes out as to that article that was written by Minister of Tourism, Lindiwe Sisulu. But I think Mlambo explained it quite nicely to say this is the situation and this is what's actually going on in our judiciary.
Yes, I think the toxicity that he was speaking of was the toxic political space in which the judiciary operates under, and the polarized environment that our society has been. He spoke quite clearly about how there are unfounded attacks on the judiciary, claims that judges are corrupt, judges are favoring one political faction over the other. All of these are political games that judges should not participate in, and they cannot participate in. And the comments by Minister Sisulu are an example of this. And I think what Judge Mlambo emphasized, Judge Madlanga, Judge Zondo emphasized was that the judiciary is not above criticism, but the kind of criticism that is the one that they will accept is the constructive criticism, which is fact-based and there's evidence to back it up. Most times there is very little evidence, there is none to support some of the claims that people make against the judiciary, and these all erode the confidence that people have in the judiciary.
I want us to move over to yesterday. Acting Chief Justice Raymond Zondo was in the hot seat, and boy, was it hot in that seat. The questions that were asked initially weren't too controversial, but then it started getting heated when Commissioner Julius Malema started asking him about a visit that Justice Raymond Zondo actually had to then President Jacob Zuma in 2008. And I want us to listen to the soundbite from that interview, and then we can speak about what this actually means. Let's have a listen.
There's no way you can be called by President Zuma twice in a hotel. You remember the years, you remember that it was in a hotel, you remember he was not in government, you don't remember what you were discussing with President Zuma at that time. I know, but there is a rule here that you don't give people, you don't raise issues that we didn't raise with you before. But you, on your own volition, please, ACJ, take the country into confidence. President Zuma asked to see you twice in a hotel. You agreed to go and meet him, and you remember all of those details. The only detail in 2 meetings you don't remember is why President Zuma wanted to meet you.
Well, I certainly don't remember them, Commissioner Malema. The one that I remember, I've told you, I've told the Commission the one that I remember.
So, Mbekezeli, the one that he does remember was back in 2008 when Julius Malema was actually still part of the ANC, and he was at a political rally, and he told those that were there, supporters of the ANC, that he will kill for Zuma. And then Acting Chief Justice Raymond Zondo now says that he got worried about this, and he decided to approach the president at the time because he was worried about violence and what a comment like this could spark, and whether or not people would actually physically take that and start becoming violent. I think many were shocked and could not understand the reasoning behind this. Do you think that as a judge at the time it was the right thing for him to do and there was political interference, or do you think he was just a concerned citizen, as he said?
Well, I think we have to view his actions within a particular context. Justice Zondo was a lawyer in the 80s and the early 90s in KZN, where there was incidents of violence. Many people died, and many of those incidents started off as comments that were made by political leaders. And we know that the role that President Zuma played in resolving some of those troubles in the early 90s and later in later periods. So I think he acted out of human instinct to try and quickly deal with those issues. But at the same time, he was a judge at the time. He was not only a judge, but a judicial leader, the judge president of the Labour Court. So on that aspect, his actions, I think, were inappropriate. He should not have arranged a meeting with a political leader, especially a political leader who was in the headlines at the time. So a high-profile political leader, even if he was concerned, I think the better approach would have been to raise it with other people and ask that they intervene, because he was a member of the judiciary and he had to be careful in the types of associations that he has. So I think Commissioner Malema was spot on to raise the issue, and Justice Zondo should have given a more credible answer than he did.
Let's move over to the kind of conduct that we've seen at the Judicial Service Commission. Many would say that a lot of the commissioners have not acted in a proper manner, have asked improper questions to the 4 candidates, whether it's sexist connotations, especially to Justice Mandisa Maya, or what was said to Judge President Dunstan Mlambo. Things started getting very heated yesterday when the Minister of Justice, Ronald called Lamola was trying to explain a part of the Constitution, and it just spiraled out, and people started calling each other liars, and there was so much shouting that the question was raised as to why the chairperson of the Judicial Service Commission is not taking control of the commission. Before you answer, I want us to actually listen to some of that interaction between the Minister and Commissioner Julius Malema.
No, my point is that this process of this individual recommended to you started once the process has started.
Yeah.
And this is what happens, ACJ.
Yes.
CJ Mukwe writes to them. They don't respond. They wait for him to go. Now they know that the CJ is gone. Their process, you are now acting. We're going to look for ACJ. Then they start responding to
Mukwe's letter. Acting chairperson, that is a lie. It's a blue lie, what Commissioner Malema.
No, but don't say I'm lying. What do you mean I'm lying?
It's a lie.
No,
it's
don't say I'm lying. That is disrespectful. To say I'm lying, it's disrespectful. But if you are going to allow him to say I'm lying, it's wrong. You see? I'm on a platform here, and I'm not going to be called a liar here.
Chair, take charge of your meeting. Chairperson, take charge of your meeting, please. No insults, please.
Yeah, I can't say I'm lying.
Honorable Minister, I would recognize you.
No, you must protect me, Chair.
I'm raising
he cannot just come in and say I'm lying.
I'm raising a point of order.
If he's going to degenerate this thing because he's a minister, it's not going to work here. Not with me. It's not going to work with me.
Mr. Malema, please make your point.
But protect me. He says I'm lying. Protect me. He's insulting me.
It's out of order, Chairperson.
But he said I'm lying. Out of order is something else. He said I'm lying. He must withdraw that.
Yeah, no, I withdraw. The lie is out of order.
Now, ACJ.
It's out of order, Chairperson.
Commissioner Malema is still on the floor.
Yeah, but a point of order is procedural. It's allowed in a meeting. It's out of order.
You know, Mbekezeli, I must say this was closer to the end of the evening. I think it must have been at about 9:15, and whoever was trying to fall asleep or had fallen asleep woke up very quickly because of that interaction. But what do you make of this kind of conduct? I mean, I just find it to be completely out of order, and I'm now using the words of the minister, but you have a candidate in front of you that's supposed to be interviewed for the Chief Justice of the Constitutional Court, and the commissioners start fighting with each other.
Yes, it was completely unacceptable, completely demeaning, completely disrespectful to Justice Zondo, who was sitting there watching a screaming match between what are supposed to be responsible commissioners of the Judicial Service Commission. And it is actually a symptom of some of the problems of the Judicial Service Commission, and which is why we, as Judges Matter, are calling for some serious reforms to the commission. The first of which is that they must have clear codes of conduct for the commissioners. The kinds of behavior that we saw last night was appalling. It should never, ever happen again. The second reform that we're calling for is a clear set of rules of procedure, because it seems as if any commissioner can raise any issue at any point in the interview, whether or not it prejudices the candidate, they don't care. That should also not happen. The third reform that we're calling for is a clear set of criteria. We as the public need to know what the Judicial Service Commission is looking for when they're doing these interviews. It shouldn't be a surprise to all of us what they are looking for. We shouldn't be guessing what are they looking for and the kinds of questions that they ask. It should be clear that they are asking a particular question because it relates to some or other quality that they will ultimately use to decide whether or not this person is suitable for the job.